Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the Grade 3 Lexington Race 9 on Keeneland Saturday card. This, of course, the final race that is offering Kentucky Derby qualifying points, as it is every year, Mike, though don't think this year is going to have any Kentucky Derby implications because none of the horses among the 9 drawn to this Lexington have enough points to get into the race, even if they get the 20 for winning this particular event.
Yeah, we won't look at it as a Derby prep necessarily, even though some years it really can be. Doesn't mean there aren't some interesting horses in here, David. It does feel like everybody's so lightly raced. It's hard to figure out exactly where they're going to wind up, but there's some talent in this field for sure.
Now, it did draw with a field of 9, but we should mention right off the top that there are a couple of horses that are probably going to come out of this race. I don't know if you've seen reporting yet, Mike. I haven't, but the number 4, Rolando, and the number 9, Touchy, did both compete earlier this week in the rescheduled Lafayette Stakes. So hard to believe that either one of those is going to turn around in just 5 days. So it does seem pretty likely this could get reduced to just a field of 7.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, regarding the ideas that their connections have if they're going to wheel back this quickly. I just kind of handicapped the race thinking they're not going to run in the spot.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector because either one of those defections could potentially affect the pace of this race. There is not a ton of speed in here, Mike, and that's why the favors frontrunners designation is showing up. And if you take the number 4 Rolando out of the race, that removes a lot of speed because he looked like a horse that was potentially going to be setting the pace in here based on the speed that he had showed in his sprint races and even the speed that he showed challenging in the opening quarter mile of that Lafayette going back to Monday of this week. But if he comes out, it probably does leave the 6 and the 7, Gosker and Prater, as 2 horses who should be vying for the front end and probably not going too fast in doing so.
Didn't think the pace was going to be fast, even if the 4 and the 9 elected to run here. And they're 2 horses who I expected to be forward if they ran. Even with them out, I don't think this pace is going to be that fast.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Hard as Life, who is going to be a long shot coming into this race. He's trying the dirt for the first time as he comes off a bit of a layoff in this Lexington. He's a horse who definitely progressed during his 2-year-old season racing on the turf. He was game rallying between horses when he broke his maiden in his 4th career start at Churchill Downs. They switched over to the synthetic at Turfway in his next race, and he chased home some decent rivals in there, getting up for second after a wide trip. His last effort was not a good one, but we did see the top 2 finishers from that Leonatus come back to improve to earn 90-plus buyers in their subsequent starts, including Chunk of Gold, who has since qualified for the Kentucky Derby. Mike, what interests me most about this horse is the switch to dirt, because his pedigree, at least on the top side, suggests that he should be better on the dirt. Gun Runner, when you look at his sire stats, he gets dirt horses, definitely not turf horses, not really synthetic horses either. And you look at the Dam side, while the Dam herself was a turf horse, she's produced one other horse that started out on the turf, Necromancer, but as soon as they switched him to the dirt, he ran the best race of his career. So I'm kind of intrigued by this horse making the surface switch.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the pedigree as far as that goes. I mean, at least on paper, I'm with you on the Gun Runners anyway. They're dirt horses to me. And on paper, anyway, it's, a dirt pedigree. Maybe on performance, not so much. But I guess we'll see what happens here. I guess if nothing else, just a real wild card, David. The races that he's been running on turf and synthetic, at least in my opinion, they're not going to get it done here. That being said, it's not like I think there's talent in here, as we said in the open, but it's not like as of now, there's a bunch of established top quality stakes horses in this field.
Yeah, I guess whether or not you want to take a shot with some of the bigger prices in this race depends on your opinion of the favorites. We'll get to them in a little bit, but let's tackle another one of those bigger prices up next, the number 2, Bracket Buster. He is a horse that was entered in a Wednesday allowance race. He's scrapped from that spot, so you'd imagine he is intended to participate here in this Lexington, coming off a layoff, Mike, and I think that's the biggest concern with this horse, having had all that time away, because the trainer, Victoria Oliver, not one that's really known for having horses fully cranked up when they make the return from layoffs, but this horse did show some quality last year, breaking his maiden in game fashion, going this distance over the Keeneland dirt surface. And then last time in the street sense, he faced some really good horses that have since solidified their status as some top Derby contenders, and he did not get an ideal trip in that race.
Yeah, agreed. I actually liked him quite a bit in the allowance race on Wednesday before they scratched him out. Maybe it's a good sign that they elected to wait for this. I don't know, David. I'm with you. I felt like he did some good things as a 2-year-old. The street sense is probably a little bit of an underrated performance against a really good field. Of the longer prices in this race, he was one I was interested in.
I need to note those last couple of races. He broke very sharply from the gate. So
Yeah.
maybe if nobody's getting aggressive here, he is a horse that could be somewhat forward. The number three is Bullard, a horse who showed a lot of talent in his first couple of starts, winning his maiden race from well off the pace and then taking down the grade three Bob Hope. We'll take a look at the replay of that race where, again, he made a big move from well behind. He was last in a five horse field early, swoops on the outside, and wins this race going away. Now, he did get very good pace setups in both of these visually impressive wins. Maybe not so much when he tried a tougher field in the grade two San Vicente last time, Mike, chasing home Barnes, who was very talented at that time. He's obviously gone the wrong way since then, but Bullard did not get a pace collapse in that spot. And he just kind of lacked finish. Now they're trying to stretch out in distance after a setback and a bit of a layoff.
Yeah, I mean, I get that if you wanted to look at the San Vicente and say he had no real chance in there because they didn't go fast in front of him, and Barnes, still has a chance to be a really nice horse. I don't know. I kind of wanted to see him run better in that spot, even with a lack of pace. His first two races were pretty good. You already, noted the benefits that he had though there with the really fast paces to close into. I guess we'll find out if he's more than a closing sprinter in the spot.
Yeah, he is a horse that was entered in the Rebel, had to be scratched in that race with an issue. So this is kind of plan B. He definitely is a horse that will not make the Kentucky Derby at this point. The number four, Rolando, probably unlikely to participate in this race, Mike, having just competed on Monday. But he did contest the pace in that spot, faded behind the highly regarded Colloquial, who didn't run quite as fast as he had in that maiden victory, but still was a comfortable winner of that Lafayette. Rolando has plenty of speed. He's the Hutchison winner, two back at Gulfstream Park, but just unclear if he's a horse that really wants to go this far.
Pace factor in here for sure. Seemed like he was, trending the right way before the Lafayette the other day there. He didn't run that well. He'd have to bounce back if he ran here. But again, David, I just looked at this race thinking he's not going to run in this spot.
The number five is Native Runner, a horse that has definitely come to hand in his last couple of starts for trainer Ken McPeak because he really did not show much at all over the course of his first few races in Kentucky and early starts in Louisiana last winter. But they dropped him into one of those maiden optional claimers, two back. He got the job done, just getting up on the wire in a game score. And he seemed much more engaged off of that victory when they tried winners last time. Close up to the pace, actually a bit rank in the clubhouse turn, made an early move to take the race over, and he settled it pretty well in the end. Seems like this horse is moving in the right direction, Mike, but he is stepping up against much tougher here.
Yeah, I guess the change in running style could bode well for him here if this pace does indeed wind up being slow and he could be forward again. Maybe he gets the chance to take another step forward here and make himself competitive. I kind of wanted to see him do it. I recognize that he's in improved form, David, but man, as good as he looked last time, that pace was really slow.
One of the potential favorites in this race is the number six, Gosker, a horse who has only made two starts so far, both in maiden company. He was closing from off the pace on debut after a poor start, got up for second that day. We'll take a look at his maiden victory, though, last time out in mid-February at Gulfstream Park, where he showed much better tactical speed, broke better from an outside post, is able to grind down the leader, and then hold off a challenger through the stretch. Mike, this son of Nyquist, as you can see in this replay, he's got a big, long stride on him. He looks like a horse that will go on in distance. I guess you could question the strength of this race based on the runner-up Pitkin coming back earlier this week and being mildly disappointing in a maiden race on the Bluegrass undercard, but others have come back out of this race to run pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the other also rans actually did maybe suggest that was a pretty strong race. And I just, more than anything else, David, I just liked the performance of Gosger overall. I liked the forward move off of his debut, which to me, he just looked really green in there. And still had a lot of learning to do. Just thought he really moved forward last time. He's backed up by a really nice pedigree. This horse, he's got a chance to be pretty good. I'm not saying I want to bet him at some kind of short price in here, but this horse has a chance to be all right.
There is plenty of turf on the bottom side of his pedigree based on the way he moves. I wonder if he might have that surface in his future, but definitely makes sense to stick with the dirt for now. The number seven is Prater, a horse going out for the powerful Chad Brown barn, and one that showed some promise during his two-year-old season. Debuted in a tough maiden race at Saratoga, came back and got the job done in a very live maiden event going a mile at Aqueduct, where he just barely held off major Kentucky Derby contender Sovereignty. He missed most of the winter, but came back in an allowance race last time at Gulfstream. We'll take a look at the replay of that race, Mike, and did everything right in victory. Visually impressive, drawing off through the stretch. Don't think there was a whole lot behind him, but I guess he did what was needed.
Yeah, it just felt like a prep race anyway. And this is just one of those situations where you're right. Maybe there's just nobody of any ability behind this horse. But to me, it's just one of those situations where you don't really care that he comes back and he wins with a 79 buyer, because he never had to get down to serious business in there. He was always going to beat that field. He did. This horse has run well in all three of his starts so far. And listen, I think he showed in the maiden win going the mile that he's got a chance to play at the top of this division if he can continue to improve.
Yeah, that 90 buyer definitely makes him a contender here. I will say I have in my formulator notes that was a speed rail bias day at Aqueduct, so that might have carried him a little bit, and I think that's a reason why some people like Sovereignty coming out of that race. But if he can get back to that number, he definitely is a horse that is a major player here. The number 8 is Hypnus, a horse who won on debut at a big price at Fairgrounds. The bettors let him go at 16-1, but he certainly was well prepped for that race by Ken McPeaker at a professional race to beat what seemed like a pretty nice field. They threw him to the wolves after that. They tried the Rebel and the Louisiana Derby. A couple of 7th place finishes resulted from those races. Didn't really work out. I will say, Mike, he had some mild trouble in the Rebel, got shuffled back coming to the top of the stretch, so I think that's a valid excuse. Yep. And the Louisiana Derby last time, he didn't run well, but he might be a horse that just really doesn't want to go that far.
Yeah, that's true too. The other takeaway that I had for the Louisiana Derby, and maybe it's sort of much ado about nothing, but it's a race where the 1, 2, 3, and 4 finishers all just stayed on the inside almost for the entirety of that race. And Hypnus was actually moving in tandem with the winner, Tistastic, all the way up the backstretch around the final turn. Hypnus had to go wide. Tistastic got the inside run, and then Hypnus just didn't really finish with any authority in that race. The distance might have got him. Maybe the trip got him just a little bit there. I'd be willing to give him a chance to rebound here if he stays around that morning line, because I don't think he's overmatched by these horses.
Rounding out the field is the number 9, Touchy. If he runs in this race, Mike, he's going to have to improve, because he has been the picture of consistency from a speed figure standpoint. All of his buyers kind of right there in the 76 to 79 range, not really varying too much from that, but he is one of those that just competed 5 days ago, and it's not exactly Wesley Ward's MO to run back in 5 days. I think he's usually preferring to run back in 5 months.
Exactly. And that's also just based on the buzz around this horse as a 2-year-old. You would expect him to have broken through with a fast race by now, and it hasn't happened.
Let's throw up our picks for this grade 3 Lexington, Mike. And you're going to put the number 7 Predator on top. I know you liked what you saw from this horse as a 2-year-old. And if you believe that layoff was just a prep race, I mean, that last victory was just a prep race and he can move forward, he's probably the horse to beat in this spot.
Probably. This is just one of those races, David, where the longer I looked at it, the less I felt like I had a really strong opinion. I don't really want to bet anybody. I spent a lot of time trying to talk myself into the 2 bracket buster. That's the long shot that I like. And if I do wind up betting the race, it'll be I'll be trying to make money with the 2 in there somewhere with the logical horses.
Ultimately, I just didn't like the favorites that much in this race. I'm not convinced by Predator. I have questions about Gosker. I thought about putting Hypnus on top, but he's been such a popular horse. I think he's a horse that could get bet down a little bit off the morning line. So I ended up getting interested in the 2 horses drawn towards the inside. You covered Bracket Buster. I'm taking a shot with the number 1, Hard As Life. I know he has to improve a lot getting on the dirt, but I've liked some things I've seen in this horse's replays, and these are connections that just never take money, but can spring the prices at times. So I'm going to try him in this Lexington. The 1, 8, 2, 6 for me, and 7, 2, 3, 6 for Mike in race 9 at Keeneland on Saturday at the Lexington. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.